When someone receives a Bible in a language they can understand, everything can begin to change. A child learns about Jesus. A family gathers to pray. A local believer gains confidence to lead. And a church takes root. That's the impact of God's Word. Bible League International is helping place Bibles where they're needed most. Watch a short video and see firsthand the difference a Bible can make. Text CHANGE to 94878. That's CHANGE to 94878.
Life Audio.
The Bible Study Podcast, episode 977. Today, the Bible Study Podcast continues the study of the book of Exodus with chapter 17. Welcome to the Bible Study Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. We're going to continue on with the study of Exodus with chapter 17, Water from the Rock. But first, a word from this sponsor.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-712-2300. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-712-2300. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now, 800-712-2300.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Exodus 17. The whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. So they quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses replied, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to the test?" But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst?" Then Moses cried out to the Lord, "What am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord answered Moses, "Go out in front of the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock of Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel. And he called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled, and because they tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" And the two words there, Massah means testing, and Meribah means quarreling. This is not an isolated instance. We will have Moses standing in front of a rock again, and the people thirsty again. We're going through a desert, so this is a theme that will keep coming up, and each time it's like it never happened before. Each time it's like God did not bring them through the Red Sea. God did not destroy the Egyptians. Their faith is still pretty darn shallow. But Moses strikes a rock, water comes out, and they are no longer thirsty. Continuing on, the Amalekites defeated. The Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites at Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, "Choose some of our men and go out to fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hands." So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning, but whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. When Moses' hands grew tired, they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held his hands up, one on one side, one on the other, so his hands remained steady till sunset. So Joshua overcame the Amalekite army with the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this on a scroll as something to be remembered, and make sure that Joshua hears it, because I will completely blot out the name of Amalek from under heaven." Moses built an altar and called it, "The Lord is my banner." He said, "Because hands were lifted up against me, the throne of the Lord will be at war against the Amalekites from generation to generation." A couple of interesting things to note here. First of all, the role of Joshua is starting to get defined here. Joshua is Moses' assistant. He's going to be very key in the story going forward, as we sort of get that little hint of when the Lord tells Moses, write this to be remember that the Amalekites will be destroyed, and I'm going to give it to Joshua. And why Joshua doesn't make sense as much now as it will later on in the book of Numbers, which is 2 books from now. But there's an interesting thing where they're fighting the Amalekites, and Moses is holding up. And now remember, this used to be Moses' staff, but this staff is from now on really going to be called the staff of the Lord. The staff here that Moses used to part the water, or that the Lord used to part the water, with Moses holding it in his hand. And as long as they're holding that up, they have victory. Their victory, therefore, is because God was giving them victory. We're going to continue on. We're going to go a little faster this week and go on to chapter 18 also. Jethro visits Moses. Now Jethro, the priest of Midian and father-in-law of Moses, heard of everything God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, and how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. After Moses had sent away his wife Zipporah, his father-in-law Jethro received her and her 2 sons. One son was named Gershom, for Moses said, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land. The other was named Eleazar. My father's God was my helper. He saved me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, together with Moses' sons and wife, came to him in the wilderness, where he was camped near the mountain of God. Jethro had sent word to him, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. They greeted each other and then went into the tent. Moses told his father-in-law about everything the Lord had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and about all the hardships they had met along the way, and how the Lord had saved them. Jethro was delighted to hear about all the good things the Lord had done for Israel in rescuing them from the hand of the Egyptians. He said, Praise be to the Lord, who rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and of Pharaoh, and who rescued the people from the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all other gods, for he did this to those who had treated Israel arrogantly. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and other sacrifices to God, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat a meal with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. The next day Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, What is this that you're doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge, while all the people stand around you from morning till evening? Moses answered him, Because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decrees and instructions. Moses' father-in-law replied, What you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. Listen now to me, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to him. Teach them his decrees and instructions, and show them the way that they are to live and how they are to behave. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can decide themselves. That will make your load lighter, because they will share it with you. If you do this, and God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain, and these people will go home satisfied. Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. He chose capable men from all Israel and made them leaders of the people, officials over thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. They served as judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but the simple ones they decided themselves. Then Moses sent his father-in-law on his way, and Jethro returned to his own country. So one of the things that I'd missed in the beginning of this book was that Jethro was a priest of Midian, and I'm not sure if it said that way back in chapter 2 when we first met Jethro. But Jethro comes, he brings the kids, he brings his daughter, who's Moses' wife, and he brings some really good advice. He watches what they're doing, where Moses is having to answer all the questions and says, this doesn't make any sense. Now, I remember a time that my company was growing rapidly, and I wasn't yet putting in a layer of management below me, and I ended up at one point managing over 20 people personally. And the people below me said that that doesn't make sense. You're working too hard. Divide up the effort. Well, Moses is doing that, but with hundreds of thousands of people coming to him for answers. And Jethro says, first, make sure people know what the rules are. Make sure they know the law. Make sure they understand what God wants. And then if you tell them, for instance, things like, well, let's say don't kill and don't steal, then somebody else can decide if in that particular case they think the person killed or stole, right? You just have to be there for the big decisions. It's more like in our country, we don't have the Supreme Court answer all court cases, but they interpret the law. They deal with when is the law need to be changed, or when is there a problem with the law, and then everybody else, all the other judges below them, deal with, in this case, who is guilty and who is innocent. And that's the same sort of thing that Jethro is suggesting. The other interesting thing about this, as they're putting in this layer of management, here is how do you choose capable men in this case, no women chosen, to do this sort of thing? Who do you want in this sort of position of authority? You want men who fear God, 1, trustworthy men, 2, who hate dishonest gain. Now, why is that? Because you're giving them power, and if somebody doesn't fear God and isn't trustworthy and likes dishonest gain, they're going to be someone who, if you slip them a few denarii, then you can have whatever justice you want. And all the prophets will be talking about those kind of judges. It's still the case today. If we want people to represent us, if we want people to be our leaders, we ought to look for these kind of characteristics. People who are trustworthy and hate dishonest gain. Because if you don't, it's not going to turn out good. That's a great thing to know about choosing leaders. And with that, we're going to end this episode of the Bible Study Podcast. If you have any questions, send an email to chris2x@gmail.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at thebiblestudypodcast.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. I want to take just a second to thank the team at Life Audio for their partnership with us on this podcast. If you go to lifeaudio.com, you'll find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in their network. They've got shows about prayer, Bible study, parenting, and more.
Hi, I'm Rachel Adams, host of the Love Offering podcast, where we explore how to live out the greatest commandment, to love God, love others, and even love ourselves. Each week, my guests and I share stories of how God's love transforms us and overflows into the lives of those around us. Whether through small acts of kindness or powerful moments of faith, we're learning how to make love our greatest offering. Tune into the Love Offering podcast, available on lifeaudio.com and all podcast platforms.
I'm Mark Vinette, host of the Historical Jesus podcast, which presents the new series, Miracles, focusing on biblical miracles from the Old and New Testament. Join me on the Historical Jesus podcast as I explore the interesting, compelling, intriguing, and wonderful miracle stories of the Bible and the many great miraculous events inspired by the words and deeds of Jesus Christ.